I thank the chairman. I thank the gentleman for your testimony today. I think from what I heard, Judge Starr kind of, as he would, being a former judge, kind of really clarified the issue, and that is, are we going to use the NLRA as a vehicle for the improvements that you've all talked about today? I suspect no. I can't imagine the authors of the law or the intent of Congress was to cover this situation, but let's poke around with it. Let's explore it a little bit. Mr. Livingston, if the students were to strike, or if the athletics department or university were to lock players out, like you'd have at a steel mill, let's say, during the collective bargaining process, would the students be able to attend class?
That's an unanswered question. The only experience we really have is in professional sports, where it's the entire league that typically goes on strike or is locked out.
And that's in professional sports.
But in college, because we don't have it, we don't know what would happen. And so
because in college you have classes, right?
Yeah, would they be entitled to stay in their dorms? Would they have to vacate those? Would they have to leave class or start paying for it? Those are unanswered questions.
Right. Yeah, certainly unanswered by the law or the regulations or anything else. Mr. Muir, Northwestern is in the Big Ten Conference, as you know, along with two schools in Indiana, one being Purdue in my district. Let's say that Northwestern student-athletes were to unionize and proceed to either strike or be locked out. How would that affect the rest of the conference, using your knowledge and experience?
Not being at Northwestern, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to jump on that. But
I just say, using your experience and knowledge, what do you think would happen? How do you feel?
I think it would be difficult to continue to schedule and continue to have competition.
If Stanford were in a similar situation, what would be the effects?
I think if that was the case, we were going down the path, Stanford might not opt to continue to compete at the level that we're currently competing at.
Right, kind of to Dr. Rowe's point or comment that he made earlier.
Yeah.
My district also has St. Joseph's College, which I'm proud to be a board member of. It's a Division II school, which, if I understand right, you can share scholarships at that level between students, and there's limited funds. Again, experience looking into your crystal ball, what would be the effect of Division II students with regard to this?
If this, again, I'm not a legal expert, but if this were the students at Division II wanted to unionize as well too, I think that would dramatically affect whether institutions can continue to have these offerings, which is part of the fabric of higher education, I think, intercollegiate athletics, and so that would be a shame if that all of a sudden changed.
Yeah, these questions and your answers continue to bring clarity to me that I don't think this law was even intended for this kind of situation. Mr. Livingston?
May I add something that we're talking about scholarships as though there's a finite limit. Under the National Labor Relations Act, the union would be able to bargain about the number and of course, the value. So half scholarships versus full scholarships, it's all a subject of bargaining under the NLRA.
Understood. Thank you. Judge Starr, coming to you. We often talk about on this committee and in businesses across the nation and in union halls about the cost of unionization, the cost of bargaining, cost of dues, et cetera, whether or not a union member should have to pay dues voluntarily or not have a choice in that. What do you think, in your experience, would be the cost of unionization for the employer and the employees? Can you estimate employer-employee costs of student-athletes unionized at Baylor, for example?
We've not punched through the numbers enough to even come up with a reasonable estimate. What we do know is that the whole idea of collective bargaining is, in fact, to increase the whole reservoir of duly agreed upon commitments by the employer. So I think part of the question is, what can we do outside the collective bargaining, which has never been contemplated before, that in fact improves student welfare? That's the ultimate policy question, it seems to me, that you have rightly focused on. And the unionization process is just raising a whole host of questions that we can't answer today, but what we do know, the costs will in fact go up, including issues then with respect to how is that student going to be treated as an employee in terms of taxation, Medicare, and the like.
Thank you. And that's a segue into my last question, and it's for you, Judge Starr. Considering that the world's a jury, watching today, people might get the impression that the acknowledgement that improvements need to be made is an acknowledgement that someone was caught or that this just started as a reaction to this recent decision. Can you give us evidence otherwise via your testimony?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Judge, the gentleman's time has
Can the gentleman
expired.
respond?
The gentleman's time has expired.